always had a dream of moving to the country, and I bought enough country magazines there that I could actually decorate a house with the amount of money I spent. But I found this house, this ominous house. It was just like a nightmare. It was truly a nightmare. And to try and tell anybody about what we saw and what we went through, it was daily. Like, it wasn't just, oh, we saw a couple ghosts, but every day there'd be something.
Home renovations, we've all done them. But what if they involve more than drywall and paint? What if behind the walls we knock down, there are dark forces just waiting to be set free? Hi, I'm Lawrence Chow. Today we meet Kingston area residents Catherine and Dave, who believe their ghostly encounters were the direct result of home renovations. Catherine Robson dreams of moving to the country, and while she knows all about designing a country home, Catherine knows nothing at all about ghosts. But the terrifying experiences she faces in her new house are about to make her an expert.
When I went to the house, it needed a lot of work, so I thought, well, a fixer-upper, and I had visions of what it could look like. I brought my best friend who had been living with me to help me raise this brood of kids. So we went to take a look at it, and she just shook her head, and there's no way I'm coming to move in with you. This is just wrong. I don't want you to do this. She got evil vibes from it, and she was refusing to move in there. But I went ahead anyways. We started immediately to cause a lot of problems. We had things happen right away that started to wreck the house. Like, there was something about this house that it was like destructive in some ways. Anything in the kitchen area that would occur would happen around the stove. We found as we were renovating that corner and had moved the stove, what we thought we'd opened up is to a portal, because that released the evil spirits. At that point, the smells would start to come up through, and badness sort of took over the house. All the evil that was in the basement sort of coming to the surface. And lots of things would start happening, like in that particular corner was the worst. This is where most of the poltergeist activity would take place. What happened with her cooking, or what happened with the missing pot lid and the bottles that fall. It was bad. Nothing was good from that moment on. The next day, something bad's happening. The next day, and in combination with the outside world and the inside world. But with the house, yeah, it was showing itself to us. That's when we felt the worst part that came after that. And it continued from that point on. And that's when we all fell apart. We would hear doors slam up the stairs, just like if a wind had shut the door. But there was no wind. There was no reason for anything to shut. They didn't shut like that normally. It happened during the day when nobody was up there. The kids were all at school, and this is what would happen. It was nothing like wind, so go up there and nothing's changed. It's still. This had never happened to me before. I'd never seen ghosts. I didn't believe in all of this, nonsense is what I thought it was, until, my friend and I would be sitting at this big kitchen table there. Did you just see that? And she says, yes, I did. That little darkness going out. Every day we'd see a little bit of something scoop, like it was black, around the kitchen. And it was presented itself with black figures all the time. It didn't matter what was time of day or what situation it was in. You'd see something running. It's just like they were scooting. Disappears fast, appears fast. It's almost teasing you. When we were seeing all these apparitions and things were happening, we sort of put them together. And so we started to, talk about the ghosts we actually would see. And everything seemed to stem from that one corner. We couldn't wait to get out of there. I was going up to my son's room, and I don't know what I was going in there for. The door was shut, and then when I opened it, when we were seeing all these apparitions and things were happening, we sort of put them together, and everything seemed to stem from that one corner. Definitely had to be a connection between the ghosts and the renovations. But I think the more we took things apart, the more we released the evil activity. I was going up to my son's room, and I don't know what I was going in there for. The door was shut, and then when I opened it, I saw the ghost, and it was of a woman, had a little tiny pointed nose, her hair pulled back in a bun, black top on, black skirt, with black leather boots that would be worn at morning time. I think if somebody had died, this is what you would wear. You're in shock when you first see something like that, but at the same time, you can take in the features, like, just as if you saw somebody really quickly. As I speak, I can see her in my mind. She was a real person. Everything was in place. Nothing was out of the ordinary, except that she was not supposed to be there. I saw her move about a yard, and she was just like somebody was moving a figure that was alive and carrying it through the room. It's really hard when you see something like that to really think, well, I did see it. I know I saw it. And so when that happens, and all the things that come back to you from all the ghost stories in your life, then you think, oh my goodness, this must be what people are talking about. Then I just went down to report it because I had to tell somebody what I just saw. We had our friend over that lived next door in another farm. He'd grown up there, actually, wasn't living there now. And we said, well, we think the place is haunted. And that's when we started to talk about the ghosts and everything. And I saw this and that and everything. Oh, that must be Myrtle. Having described the size of her and what she looked like, then there's no question, because he'd met her. He was a child when she was around. And turned out that she was this matriarch of the family back then, and sat at the head table and would swing her little legs underneath and drink beer after beer and order the whole place around, and she wasn't very well liked. I just know that she must have had a lot to do with a lot of the activity up and around the stove. I decided that the place was evil and I was going to burn everything that represented evil. I'm an artist, and I've done a lot of portraits over the years, and I had some that I'd kept and put them in the garage sort of to make it look kind of funky to sit out, but they started to show signs of tampering with. We started noticing little holes, and it just felt wrong. So I burned them. It was a very still night. And I would hear a lot of commotion in the fields, like things were walking around, but I felt safe by the fire. So I felt that was part of the cleansing process, is to get rid of the things that somebody didn't like. Something didn't want us there, and we didn't want to be there, and lost an awful lot of time, energy, money, just left and Nothing, I've never seen anything, ghosts or anything, spirits like that, or, you know, in the modern home that we're in. It was just like a nightmare. It was truly a nightmare.
Our experts tell us the idea of a portal is common in shamanic cultures. The shaman uses it to journey to the other world. Catherine believes the hole in her kitchen floor is a portal to the world of evil spirits. Through it, they enter the house, attack her and her family, and corrupt the portraits. And so burning the portraits is an act of purification that banishes evil by destroying the object it has become a part of. As an adult, Catherine's beliefs help her make sense of her experience. But as a young boy, Dave Harrington's spiritual ideas are barely formed, and that makes his ghostly encounter even more confusing.
My parents had me when they were very young, so you know, we started out really not having a lot of money. Parents lived in an apartment for a few years. Eventually, they saved up enough money to buy a house just out of town. Hadn't been lived in for at least 30 years, from what we understand. I think at the time that we moved in, it was about 150 years old. Most of the house was, you know, definitely run down from not being lived in and really not being looked after. But structurally, I think it was pretty sound, and that was what my dad was looking for. My dad's very handy, so he wanted something that was definitely going to be a project that he could build on. There was just 2 bedrooms up in the upstairs, so my sister and I had to share a bedroom just for the first little while until my dad built an addition over top of the kitchen. Everything seemed to start right when we started renovating the house, and they sort of progressively got more intense, I guess, as it went on. Some of the first things we started to hear, I guess mostly, once we started working on the house, which was pretty much right away, that iron grate in the floor would just constantly clunk all night long. And the only time it would ever make a noise is if you ever walked over top of it. That's the noise it would make. Once it started, I mean, you'd get up, you'd turn the light on, be like, what's going on? No noise. Turn the light off, get back into bed, 5-10 minutes later, do it again. Yeah, it was really odd. We also heard a baby crying in the house. One afternoon, my mom and I both heard it. We also heard a baby crying in the house. One afternoon, my mom and I both heard it, and, you know, it would come and go, so we'd hear it cry, and then it would stop for a bit, and we'd look around, and then we'd hear it cry again, and then we'd look around some more, so we looked everywhere. We just could not really pinpoint where it was coming from, but we were constantly hearing it. Hear a rocking chair kind of creaking across the floor at different times. And we would hear that during the day. Like, that wasn't just a nighttime thing, that was a during the day thing. We would hear that quite a bit through the day. My grandpa had a rocking chair, and it sounded exactly like that. It's just kind of, you know, rocking back and forth on a wooden floor. So there was definitely, it felt to us anyways, that there was something there going on. Things started to progress a little bit more. We'd find stuff out of place all the time. You'd know for sure that you put something on the counter, and then, you know, you'd find it like in the middle of the room. There seemed to be more dishes. Dishes we would find out of place a lot more often than anything else. Most of the time, my sister and I would get up at the same time, and, you know, we'd go downstairs and turn on the TV to watch cartoons. We'd get to the bottom of the stairs, and we'd kind of just both stop. I remember we come down to the bottom of the stairs and we just kind of looked at the table. We're like, what's going on? The table is completely set. You know, all of our good china was on there and it was all set perfectly. Teacups, saucers, you know, everything was out on the table perfectly set. Just didn't make any sense to us. It was really extra shocking that we come down and find the table completely set with all this good china that we rarely used. I couldn't have said it better now than what it was set at that time. So when my sister and I seen that, of course, we ran back upstairs, got mom and dad, and we're like, the table's completely set. Like, is there something we should know? And, you know, they come downstairs and they look at it. I remember we sat there for a little bit and just kind of, you know, we're asking my parents what was going on. And I think that was sort of the first instance that we really kind of realized that, hey, there's something else going on in this house. They definitely let us know, even back then, that they felt there was another presence in the house and never really sheltered us from anything that we seen or they seen. You know, they definitely used the ghost word. I think the most scary event, I guess, for myself and my sister, since we were sharing a bedroom early on, it was in the summertime. Fairly soon after we moved in. I don't think we were in the house for 3 months, so it was definitely in the summer. And I'm gonna say it was probably 8 o'clock at night. It was definitely still light out. The closet was a full-size door, a regular size, open the door closet, and inside of that closet was a shelf on top of a hanger rack. And I remember just laying in bed, and all of a sudden we heard a crash in that closet. Everything crashed down. It made a huge noise, loud enough that my mom and dad heard it in the bottom floor. Dad come running upstairs, thought, you know, maybe we were into something, doing something we shouldn't have been doing because we were supposed to be in bed. And all my sister and I could do was point towards the closet. Everything crashed down. It made a huge noise, loud enough that my mom and dad heard it in the bottom floor. And Dad come running upstairs. So he kind of goes around there. He opens up the closet door, and everything was off of the rack on the floor. Everything was off of the shelf on the floor. There was nothing left above the floor in that closet. The shelf was completely intact. The rack was completely intact. I mean, I think both my sister and I were scared at the time. We probably had the look of fear on our faces because Dad definitely noticed that when he came in, and we could just point at the closet. Definitely think something knocked everything off of the shelf and off of the rack for it to be just falling off and everything still be intact. I don't think that could have happened. I think if the rack would have been on the floor or the shelf would have been on the floor, I think that could have been more of an explanation, that it could have just fell, but none of that happened. Those were still intact. Everything else was on the floor. It was sort of the one that freaked us out the most. I think it was sort of that first instance of showing us that there was something we were doing to that house he didn't agree with, or it didn't agree with, I guess. So it was sort of mean, probably the meanest thing that did happen while we were there, I guess. It only happened once, but I think it was sort of meant to be a message.
Our deepest emotions and most profound conflicts occur within our homes. Experts tell us this can create a powerful energy. When renovations disturb this energy, it may take the form of ghosts. Negative and threatening in Catherine's case, quirky and less menacing in Dave's. Both Dave and Catherine found their ghostly encounter frightening. Because of this, it's likely they'll think twice before they renovate again.
I believe the renovations definitely had something to do with our experience at the house. I believe they were angry that we were messing with their house, and they were trying to let us know in a sort of nice manner. Nothing was ever really extreme, so I think they were just kind of nicely telling us that they were making them angry.
There definitely had to be a connection between the ghosts and the renovations. I think it all went hand in hand. New people in the house and wanting to change, different ideas, for sure. I'm sure it had to be that way. And it was enough.